On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched one of the most dramatic surprise attacks in modern history. They declared it would be over in weeks. They called it a total victory, multiple times. So why, nearly 4 months later, was America still at the negotiating table, on Iran's terms? Today, we break down the war that shook the world, emptied your wallet at the fuel pump, and left a lot of people asking, who actually won here? To understand this war, you need to go back all the way to 1979, when Iran's Islamic Revolution overthrew the US-backed Shah and kicked America out of the country. Ever since, the two nations have been locked in a cold, simmering hostility, sanctions, proxy wars, and endless nuclear standoffs. The immediate triggers leading up to 2026 included Iran's nuclear program, its ballistic missiles, its military reach across the Middle East, and the collapse of the 2015 nuclear deal, the JCPOA, which had briefly put limits on Iran's uranium enrichment. Fast forward to late 2025. Iran was in crisis. In January 2026, the Iranian government and military massacred thousands of civilians in a crackdown on the country's largest protests since the 1979 revolution. Time magazine reported as many as 30,000 civilians killed during that crackdown alone. America was watching, and Trump was about to make his move. At his State of the Union in February 2026, Trump claimed Iran had restarted its nuclear program and was developing missiles capable of striking the US, claims that contradicted his own previous statements and US intelligence reports. But the political machinery was already in motion. On February 28, 2026, US and Israeli forces launched nearly 900 strikes in just 12 hours, targeting Iranian missiles, air defenses, military infrastructure, and leadership. The operation was codenamed Operation Epic Fury. The strikes killed Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, including the Iranian Defense Minister, IRGC commander, and multiple intelligence chiefs. Decapitation of an entire government in one morning. But here's where it got complicated. The opening strikes also killed around 170 people when a missile struck a girls' school adjacent to a naval base in Minab, southern Iran. That image of children's shoes in rubble went around the world. And then Iran hit back, hard. In the chaos after the opening strikes, Iran reached for a lever the world couldn't ignore. Iran had a weapon the US didn't fully account for, the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow strip of water, just 33 kilometers wide at its tightest, carries roughly 20% of the world's oil supply, and Iran closed it. Commercial traffic through the strait dropped by more than 90% after the outbreak of conflict. Brent crude oil hit $119.50 per barrel at its peak. Fuel prices spiked across Asia, Europe and beyond. Iran had effectively held the global economy hostage. Meanwhile, Iran launched hundreds of drones and ballistic missiles at Israel, Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the UAE. Dubai International Airport, one of the busiest in the world, was damaged and forced into limited capacity. This was no limited regional skirmish. This was war, everywhere, all at once. Now, let's talk numbers, because they are staggering. As of early April, human rights activists in Iran documented over 3,600 deaths in Iran alone, including more than 1,700 civilians. Lebanon suffered even worse. The Lebanese death toll reached nearly 3,900 killed, over 11,000 wounded, more than 1.2 million displaced. On the US side, at least 13 American service members were killed in the first 2 weeks. By May, the Pentagon's estimated war cost was nearly $29 billion, with a request for a further $200 billion. The cost to Arab countries hit by Iranian strikes was estimated at $120 billion by the end of March. Iran itself estimated the damage to its own economy at somewhere between $300 billion and $1 trillion. And as for the humanitarian crisis, by early April, 307 health and medical facilities in Iran had been damaged, including hospitals, clinics, and emergency care centers. People giving birth without electricity. A country's entire medical system collapsing in real time. So, why did both sides eventually come to the table? Simple, neither could afford to keep going. Trump later admitted he feared an economic catastrophe. He said he did not want to be like Herbert Hoover, blamed for the Great Depression. That's your answer right there. A first ceasefire was brokered by Pakistan on April 8, 2026. It held barely. Both sides violated it repeatedly. On June 17th, Trump and Iranian officials signed. They signed a 14-point memorandum of understanding. It established a 60-day ceasefire, and it reopened the Strait of Hormuz. Here's the question everyone's asking. It's uncomfortable for the US. Trump declared total victory multiple times. He claimed Iran had nothing left militarily. He said he'd achieved regime change. Fact check, false. The Islamic Republic remains in power. Now led by Mojtaba Khamenei, reportedly more hardline than his father. Iran claimed victory. It says it forced the US to accept a 10-point plan, lifting all US sanctions, withdrawing US forces from regional bases. Even Hezbollah's leader called it a big victory. The honest assessment? America achieved some military objectives. Iran's nuclear sites were damaged, its military degraded. There was no regime change, no disarmament, no permanent Hormuz guarantee. It spent nearly $30 billion doing it. 56% of Americans opposed the war from the start. So, with both sides spinning, what did they actually sign? Now, the practical question everyone feels in their pocket: what does this mean for fuel? On June 20th, Trump announced there would be no tolls on the Strait of Hormuz during the 60-day ceasefire. That's good news short term. Oil tankers can move again, supply disruptions ease, and prices should fall. France's Macron said the deal will soon enable a decrease in energy prices. But, and it's a big but, if the 60-day talks collapse, the strait could close again. The volatility isn't over. Watch this space. So, what did they actually agree to? The deal includes the Strait of Hormuz reopened toll-free, Iran to remove mines within 30 days, the US naval blockade lifted, up to $24 billion in frozen Iranian assets released, and Iran commits not to pursue nuclear weapons. But critically, the deal does not include Iran's ballistic missile program. It does not include Iran's network of armed allies across the Middle East. Hezbollah, the Houthis. Those were Iran's red lines, and America blinked on them. Experts at the Atlantic Council noted the MOU is a 14-point plan that codifies the ceasefire. It does not resolve the core issues around Iran's nuclear program. Hormuz management, sanctions relief, all of which are pushed to the next round of talks. So there you have it. A war that started with 900 strikes in 12 hours, killed thousands, cost hundreds of billions, held the global oil supply hostage, and ended with America signing a deal critics say looks a lot like Iran's original demands. Whether that's pragmatism or humiliation, well, that depends on who you ask. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think won? And if this kind of breakdown is your thing, subscribe to Smartobrains. Because this is exactly what we do here. See you in the next one.